Hello and welcome to another Scriptcase Fundamentals training. During this class, you will learn how to create a form application, manage the available fields, add new ones, and also how to change the form orientation. I'm going to use the form application to manipulate records from a database table, in this case from the products table. So I will start by selecting the new application menu option, and then I will select the form application. Now I could choose the connection that was previously defined during the project creation steps, or I can have more than one connection within a single project by adding and then selecting another database connection. The name of the application will be filled automatically when I select the table. By default, Scriptcase uses the name form underscore. As we see here, we have now form underscore products now that I have selected the products table. I can then customize the name according to my project standards. The naming convention of applications is quite important, and I would suggest that you give it some thought beforehand, because as your project grows, you will want to know who and what an application is for. During the form creation, I can also select the localization that I want to use as default for this specific form. This is also defined on project creation, so it already has a default setting and doesn't require any further actions unless I want to apply them. I will leave it as English. Above this, I can select between one of the four types of available form. I have the single record, multiple records, editable grid, and editable grid view. Once finished with this initial setting, I can then view the tab Edit Fields. Here I can see the fields that are available in the table, the labels that will be displayed for all the fields, the type of the data for each field, and also have two available checkboxes to select from. One checkbox that will specify if the field is available when inserting a new record, and the second checkbox which will indicate if the field is available for edit or update. I can also define if the field is a read-only field and if it is required for entry by the end user, essentially making the field required. In the Theme tab, I can edit the theme that will be used within the form application. The themes available here will be the themes that I had selected during the project creation process. And finally, there is also an option to create the application and after that return to the Create New Application screen, allowing me to create continuous applications. Once we are ready, we can click the Create button. Now I can start to define each of the available settings of the form application within the current screen. And do notice the menu options on the left side, which I will come back to shortly. But let's start by executing the application to see how it looks and how it works with its default settings and options. So let's review the form with its defaults. Here you have the default selected header of the form with the title of the application as well as the current date. By default, you will have a quick search where you can search for any record within the selected database table which I am using for the current form application. I have the button Add New to insert new records in the table. Also the button Save to update changes in the current record, and the Delete button to delete the current entry. To the right, you would also find an Exit button that you can use to leave the application or in some cases use it to go back. Below that, you also have a bottom toolbar that is again divided in three different sections: right, center and left, just like the header. So this is the single record orientation of the form application that we are currently viewing. I will go ahead and change it to the multiple records so that we can see the difference between the two options. Let's run it and see the form is now as a multi-record form. Going back to our form configuration, and when I change from single record to multiple records, you can see that I have some different options available. I can define here the pagination method that will be used in the application. If total is selected, then it will display all records. Alternatively, you can select partial, which will then allow you to define how many records will be displayed per page. Then I can define how many lines are available when inserting records. Let's say I wanted to include 4 records per display, for example. There is also this feature called Fixed Label, which is very useful if you have a form with a lot of records per page. Selecting this will freeze the labels so that you can scroll within the form application and still make sure one is editing the correct column of the record when there are many records. Do notice if we make any change within a record, then the checkbox on the left hand side will update. This indicating the line which will be updated when I click the Save button. If we don't want to update this record for some reason, I can uncheck it and click on Update, and only the checked lines will be updated. The same way I can update multiple records at the same time, I can also delete multiple records. To do that, I just need to select the records by checking the checkbox and then clicking the Delete button. Now let's learn more about the next form orientation, the editable grid option. So let's return back to our form settings and select the editable grid and run it again. Here you can see that this time there is no update button or delete button in the main toolbar, because now every change must be performed to each record individually. As you can see, I have the inputs available to edit. When I am done editing, I just need to hit the button Save. There is also a delete button per row, allowing me to delete each individual row as I please. The final form orientation is the editable grid view. Here I can also edit one record at a time if I choose. The difference between the editable grid and the editable grid view is that the form will start without the records being available for edit by the end user. In this case, the form provides edit buttons next to each entry which the user must click for the fields to become available and the Save button to be presented. For instance, when I click here on the Edit button, I then receive 2 new buttons. The Save button to save the whole row, and the Cancel button to cancel any changes one may have made to this row. You can also select to edit the record inline or to use a modal window if you so choose. Each of these selections provides many options and different user experiences. And that's it for this class. Thank you for watching this Scriptcase Fundamentals training. We hope you have enjoyed it and that we see you again soon.